7 habits of highly effective people. Wisdom is your perspective on life, your sense of balance, your understanding of how the various parts and principles apply and relate to each other. It embraces judgment, discernment, comprehension. It's a gestalt or oneness, an integrated wholeness. An integrated wholeness. And this integrated wholeness is all balance. It's all balancing all the parts and pieces of all the different bits of wisdom that we have in our life. So we talked week 1 about aligning with our divine wisdom, and in week 2 we talked about the wisdom to let go and rise. And in week 3 we talked about the wisdom of our why, our divine urge. And this week we're going to talk about the wisdom of balance, of the ebb and flow of life. So just a hint, the universe itself is balance. It is a balance. So when I'm talking about balance, though, I'm not talking about what we traditionally think of. There's, the buzzword of wisdom that is talking a lot about, or of balance that talks a lot about work-life balance, or a balance between rest and work and play and those sorts of things. I'm talking about that as well, but I'm more talking about the ebbs and the flows, the rest and action, the failure and success, the gain and the loss, the giving and the receiving. All of those are in balance in our life when we are in the flow of life. They are part of how we move through life in our divine self, in our highest self. And if you think about it, balance is always active. It can never be static. You cannot stand still. Like if I'm on my foot trying to balance myself, I clearly don't have a very strong core, because I'm not balancing, but what you'll notice I'm doing is I'm adjusting and adjusting and adjusting and adjusting. This is part of the wisdom of divine order that Charles Fillmore talks about. It's the ability to adjust. And the universe is always in that mode of adjusting. We are always in that place of needing to adjust one way or another. And in fact, even when we are first learning balance, as a small child, as a toddler, we are always in movement as we are balancing. So you take a look at the way a toddler learns how to walk. They don't so much stand up and walk. They stand up and then they fall forward. And then they fall forward again, and then they fall forward again. They're always in that space of moving and therefore falling and catching themselves. And this is part of the balance, the wisdom of divine balance that is embedded in our very being. So I have the wisdom of balance. I have the our Bible verse for today is from Ecclesiastes, and of course that was the song that I just sang. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. And we know that in the song there's a time to reap and a time to sow, that there's a time to live and a time to die. There's a time for everything within the wholeness of life. It is a oneness, it's a wholeness, it's a gestalt, an integrated wholeness is what Stephen Covey said. And that is how we are in our life, that we have parts of all of those things. Now, I also took from the Bhagavad Gita, change is the law of the universe. And change, the way that has to do with balance, is that it's adjustment. It's adjusting one to another, to another, to another, ensuring that we are always in the flow of the balance of life. Charles Fillmore in The Revealing Word wrote, "The divine idea of order is the idea of adjustment. And as this is established in a person's thought, his or her mind and affairs will be at one with the universal harmony." When we are in that ability to be in order, in balance, in adjustment, when we are in that ability to maintain the balances in our lives, then we are in the divine harmony. We are in the divine flow. We become a part of it. We are a part of it already, but we use it effectively for our lives. So, universal harmony is balance and motion. It's like gymnastics. You think about gymnastics, even when they're walking on the balance beam, they seem perfectly balanced because they're so strong. But even as they're walking that balance beam, they are adjusting and adjusting and adjusting all the way along. When you see them flipping and flying through the air and doing all sorts of amazing things and landing on one hand, they are always adjusting, always moving, always in the motion of moving from one thing to another to ensure that they stay in that perfect balance. And that's what we do in our lives. That's how we use this principle of balance in our life. We change, we adjust, we balance the forces in our lives, we balance the giving and the receiving so that we can maintain the law of circulation. We balance the inhaling and the exhaling so that we can maintain the health of our body. We balance our energy and stamina with our rest and relaxation so that we can maintain the energy of our body. We balance the falling and catching ourselves and getting back up again in so many ways in our lives. We always have those times of ebb and the times of flow. We are like the wave in perpetual motion. The Tao Te Ching says it this way: there's a time for being ahead, a time for being behind, a time for being in motion, a time for being at rest, a time for being vigorous, a time for being exhausted, a time for being safe, a time for being in danger. Doesn't this sound so exactly like Ecclesiastes? The master sees things as they are without trying to control them. She lets them go their own way and resides at the center of the circle, because that is how we maintain our balance. Spiritually, we know how to do this physically, but spiritually, to maintain our balance, we need to keep coming back to our center, coming back to the source of our being, coming back to the source of our spiritual energy. This is where the balance happens. And so we can let things go this way or go that way, so long as, like a feather, we return to the center. There's a beautiful metaphor that my sister told me not too long ago. She said one of the sacred teachings that she learned from an indigenous woman was that the feather has all of the little hairs that go outward, but they always come back to the center. And that is the teaching of it, is to remember that even as you go off this way or that way, you have a center core that you can return to that brings you back into perfect balance and harmony with who you are. This is how we maintain our balance. We come back to our center, back to the core of who we are. Ralph Waldo Emerson says, "The world looks like a multiplication table or a mathematical equation, which, turn it how you will, balances itself." And that is the truth. Because the divine life, because the infinite consciousness is a balance. There is nothing out of balance within God. There's nothing out of balance within God. So when we look at the reflection of God, which is the world around us, which is the universe around us, when we look at the reflection of God, what we see is that all of the pieces fit. All of the pieces fit. How revolutionary is a thought is that? I bet we can all think of some pieces that we wish didn't fit. I bet we can all think of things in life around us that don't seem like they're part of the universal harmony. But if I believe, as I do, that there is God and absolutely nothing else, then I must believe that all of those things are a part of the universal harmony, are a part of the balance. And so when I see things that appear to be out of balance, I can do one of two things. Either I can feel called perhaps to go and create balance in some other way. When I see people hungry or homeless, perhaps the balance is mine to create. Perhaps I'm the one that should be out working with the homeless people or working with food security so that I can bring that good to the world, to bring the balance. Or perhaps, as the master in the Tao, she lets them go their own way and resides at the center of the circle. Perhaps what is mine to do in some cases is to simply return to the core of myself and trust and trust and trust that there is already balance there, that we already are within the wisdom of divine balance and that we cannot be apart from it. The ebbs and flows balance out. And another great line from the Tao Te Ching. I'm just heavily on the Tao today, I guess. Being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short define each other. High and low depend on each other. Before and after follow each other. All of those things that we see as opposites that may feel like they are out of balance have their other imbalance opposite. They all have the opposites, and all of those opposites require one another. If I didn't know that there was tall, I wouldn't know that there is short. If there was no high place, there would be nothing to show the low place. If there was no before, I wouldn't know that there's an after. All of these things are part of the fabric of the universe. They're part of the fabric of our lives and our experiences. And so when we are looking in our own personal lives, we can see that, okay, I had a time of low, but now I'm on the rise to a time of high. Or I've had a time of high, but now I can relax and allow myself to be in a time of low for a while. I can't always have high energy. I need to rest. I can't always feel like I'm on top of the world, at the top of my game. Because when you're at the top of your game, there's no place to go but down. Isn't that what they say? So you have to allow for the movement of life. You have to allow for the balance to find itself within your own life. And the beautiful thing is that each and every part in that highs and lows and ups and downs and balancing acts, that we every single step within that, every single step is a sacred step. Every single step has something rich and beautiful for me in it. Whether it is we're shutting everything down because there's this COVID thing happening, so now everybody has to stay at home, even though that felt catastrophic to a lot of us. Guess what? I know of so many people that said that was exactly what their soul needed. To take time to rest. To take time to go inward. Where we see things that appear to be such a struggle, we can choose to find out, to be curious, to find out what is the balance in this for me? What is the good in this for me? Linda Martello-Whitsitt writes, perhaps you can relate to this perpetual balancing act. I benefit from being busy. I thoroughly enjoy filling my calendar with meaningful, interesting activities. I also benefit from being still. I relish times of meditation, as well as physical, mental, and spiritual rest. Action and stillness may appear to be opposites, but rather than opposing each other, They support each other. And that is how we can see our whole life, every part of it, even health and illness, even birth and death. We can see these as being part of that whole fabric of life that supports the wholeness of it, that supports everything of it. And in fact, even failure is required for success. Now, I'm going to play a video. I happen to like Will Smith. I don't know if all of you do, but this is great.
It's a little bit frustrating to me when people have a negative relationship with failure. Failure is a massive part of being able to be successful. You have to get comfortable with failure. You have to actually seek failure. Failure is where all of the lessons are. You know, when you go to the gym and you work out, you're actually seeking failure. You want to take your muscles to the point where you get to failure, because that's where the adaptation is. That's where growth is. Successful people fail a lot. They fail a whole lot more than they succeed, but they extract the lessons from the failure, and they use that the energy, and they use the wisdom to come around to the next phase of success. You gotta take a shot. You have to live at the edge of your capabilities. You gotta live where you're almost certain you're going to fail. That's the reason for practice. Practice is controlled failure. You're getting to your limit, getting to your limit, getting to your limit. You can't lift that. You can't do that. Until you get to the point that all of a sudden your body makes the adjustment, and then you can do it. Failure actually helps you to recognize the areas where you need to evolve. So fail early, fail often, fail forward.
Fail early, fail often, fail forward. We need failure. We need the ebb in order to have the flow. We need the failure to have the success. We need to trust both the ebb and the flow. We need to trust that that is a part of life, that that is a part of the God expressing itself in and through and as each one of us. Just like a toddler, we need to trust that when we get up, we can fall forward and walk. So I'm going to leave us with this quote by Ernest Holmes. When we learn to trust the universe, we shall be happy, prosperous, and well. No matter what our emotional storm or what our objective situation may be, there is always a something hidden in the inner being that has never been violated. That's the God self right there. We may stumble, but always there is that eternal voice forever whispering within our ear, that thing which causes the eternal quest, that thing which forever sings and sings. That eternal quest for us is always to be living a good life, living our best life. That's what we want. We want to be in joy. We want to be in freedom. We want to be in power in ourselves. And in order to be that, in order to do that, we have to trust that even the ebbs are part of the flow, that even the failure is part of the success. I always say, you know, when I'm in a place of struggle, well, this is just how it looks on the road to awesome. So we need to have that trust in the universe and in every single expression within our lives. So join me, will you, if you choose, for an affirmation. I trust the wisdom in the intricate balance of the universe. I trust the ebb and flow of life and find deep contentment in every moment. And so it is. Amen.